All right, where does South Carolina stand in the NIL game in the SEC and nationally? Locked on Gamecock starts right now.
You are Locked on Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked on Gamecocks. I appreciate you guys joining along. I am your host, Chris Marler. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Tuesday so far. And thank you for making Locked on Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more and make sure this summer, like I told you guys 1,000 times, FanDuel is hooking up fans and bettors all day, every day. Every single day, there is something for someone all summer long with a boost or a bonus from your friends at FanDuel. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com today and get started. Let's jump into today's episode. We got a fun one. It's somewhat getting into a little bit of a deep dive of some stuff that you guys have asked, and I kind of hinted at a while ago. And it's coming on the heels of some news that we saw from Lenor Sellers the other day, or on Monday, in the NIL deal that he signed with a local dealership, Dick Dyer. I don't know if it's what his actual branding is, but Dick Dyer, I'm sure if you live in the Columbia or Lexington area like me, you've definitely heard the name. You've definitely heard about his dealership. And for, I believe, the second year in a row, he is going to be the one that has sponsored the Gamecock starting quarterback riding around in a new whip for the season. Lenor Sellers got a matte black Mercedes. Now, it's different than what Spencer Rattler got last year. Rattler showed up in a G-Wagon, which is very, very nice. This is, I don't know if it's a sedan or if it's a two-door or whatever. I don't know enough about Mercedes because I don't live in that kind of tax bracket. But good for Lenor Sellers going out and getting a deal with them and being at the forefront of a little bit of some positive news that you see, especially in the NIL game, which I feel like is a place that South Carolina has been lacking, not necessarily from the NIL game itself, but from hearing about some of these deals, some of these big numbers that are being thrown around in the world of college football. Now, I think some of that's a positive. I know that this is it's a weird, I don't want to say it's a touchy subject. It's kind of a polarizing subject because NIL has changed so much of college football, and a lot of it not really, I don't want to say for the better, but I will say this. When NIL started, the whole point of NIL, somehow we've forgotten about this going into 2 years of having it. The whole point of NIL was, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if like you could just go out and make money off your own name, image, and likeness, since it's your name, image, and likeness? Wouldn't it be awesome if Johnny Manziel or Todd Gurley or AJ Green could sign autographs and just make money off of it because it's their own name? Stuff like that, local advertising, all those things. That was the whole point of NIL. Shocker, it didn't take long for boosters to hijack that entire situation. And it just became a bidding war, and whoever has the deepest pockets and really an arms race around the SEC, especially of, hey, we need to just get a collective together and get as much money as possible. And that way we can throw that money at kids and recruits. And that's how we'll do this, whether it's in the portal, whether it's in high school, whatever. And that's become the whole thing. So the deeper the pockets and the deeper the pockets from the boosters, especially, the more money that's been thrown at these kids. And you see it at places like Texas and Ohio State. And I don't have the numbers in front of me because I still need to do a research on where they all are in the SEC, especially. But I started thinking about where does South Carolina currently stand and where they need to be. Now, I don't know the total number from the collective. South Carolina is also in a unique position because it's a school that is really gifted and really, really blessed to have multiple sports that draw fans, draw attention, and demand money. Like LSU is a similar situation. Women's basketball, college baseball, and football, very similar to South Carolina. The programs kind of mirror each other in that setting. And ironically enough, that you get former LSU head coach Paul Maneri as your new head coach for South Carolina. Now, the situation with Sellers, I pulled up the numbers on him specifically. And this is where Lenor Sellers, your starting quarterback at South Carolina, ranks in the NIL valuation game from On3. Now, listen, this is not what they're necessarily being paid. This is the valuation of what they are currently valued at in college athletics, right? And now, listen, keep in mind, I got these numbers like on Monday. I don't know if they've updated it. I would assume they haven't because the number for Sellers seems low, especially considering he's driving around in a six-figure car. The number for Sellers is $276,000. That sounds like a lot. Listen, $276K for a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid is phenomenal work. Phenomenal work. I think I was living off like $150 like every 2 weeks in college. But where that ranks amongst other college football players, and especially also ranks in the SEC and at his position, not great. 328th highest NIL valuation in all of college football. It's the 56th ranked quarterback in terms of NIL in the country. 56th. I don't think there's 56 quarterbacks or 55 quarterbacks better than Lenor Sellers. We have a very small sample size for him to work off of, but I don't think there's 55 quarterbacks that are better than him. And even if there are, in this day and age, you can't have 55 other quarterbacks being paid more than a starting quarterback in the SEC. Now, listen, so 276K, 328th highest in the country, 56th ranked quarterback. You have 19 other SEC quarterbacks ranked ahead of him. Just do the math on that for a second, guys. Like, you have 19 other quarterbacks in the conference ranked ahead of him from 11 different schools. There's only 16 teams in the conference. South Carolina is one of the 16. So you have 15 other schools. There are 19 other quarterbacks from 11 different schools, all with higher NIL valuation and multiple guys being paid more than your starting quarterback. Now, he hasn't started a game yet. Got a lot to prove. But in this day and age of football, it's very interesting to see where the money lies, because I know Spencer Rattler, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, what he got. It had to have been higher. And granted, he's a different quarterback, different prospect, and you're going to get him out of the portal. And you've heard college coaches talk about this. The going rate for a college quarterback, especially out of the portal, is $1 million. That's the going rate. That doesn't mean that's what everyone's getting paid, but that's the going rate. So for him to have 19 other quarterbacks, 3 players on Georgia's roster ranked higher. I think Bama had 2. Texas obviously has like 2 in the top 5 overall with Ewers and Manning. It just concerns me, big picture. I think it's great that what you saw today will go a very long way in terms of attracting recruits, especially at that position. In this day and age of football, whether we like it or not, you're going to have to do that. Like, if you're going to throw a bag at somebody, you got to make sure you do the due diligence and make sure like that you evaluate correctly. And they're a guy you're going to spend that money on. Like Peyton Thorne in Auburn was $390,000 out of the portal. $390 for what Peyton Thorne got. He's getting less this year, by the way, like $346. But still, you have to go out and make sure that your evaluation is correct. But at some point, you're going to have to throw some money at guys if you are going to be taken seriously in the NIL game, especially at this position. So that's what he is getting paid. Again, focus on the positives here. Huge job. Salute to Dick Dyer and going out and getting, for the second straight year, a high-profile situation with NIL and a positive success story with NIL that now you can go position and pitch to recruits, especially at this position. We've talked about it before. What are the most important positions in all of football at any level? Quarterback, left tackle, edge rush, and now a little bit receiver as well. So I think it's great that your starting quarterback is going to be going around and in a luxury automobile and like fitting the part, because in this day and age, that is part of it. That is part of it. Just bottom line. You don't have to be like Texas and throwing Lamborghinis around. I think the kid from Kansas State got like a fuchsia purple like Corvette or something like that. You don't have to do all that. But like, yeah, like I think these are going to be the demands at this position. So in this case specifically, you rank really low, but you are doing the things to at least take that next step at South Carolina to show like, hey, we are going to be a player in this game. This is the current state of college football we're in. So I thought that was a hell of a job done by them today. And there'll be more details on it, especially, like I said, like I don't know enough about Mercedes. I don't know about cars at all. But I thought that was a good job from South Carolina. Now, in the next after the break, we were going to talk a little bit more about where they stand, where some of the other stuff, like in comparison to SEC schools, and what they're going to have to do to take the next step in the SEC, as well as where some of the other USC players rank as well. Before we do that, I want to talk to you again about our good friends over here at FanDuel. You guys have heard me brag about them a lot. We're getting closer and closer to the season. And listen, I love sports. I love them so much. I don't want them to stop. Playoffs are winding down. We get fewer games. Fall camp starts Friday. Not a ton to be betting on before then. But the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up any bets that I'm in the mood for, and boom, done deal. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There is something for everyone all summer long. All right, make sure you stick around for the next segment here, and we are going to be talking more about South Carolina NIL, as well as some other things that happen nationally and where South Carolina ranks as well, including Josh Pate and his power ratings, and some NFL earnings to go along with that. Make sure you stick around for Locked On Gamecocks. We are going to be right back. All right, guys, welcome back in. Chris Marlowe, your host here, Locked On Gamecocks. Thank you so much for sticking around and being here as well. Now, listen, before we get started on the next segment and continue to dive into the South Carolina, where they stand for NIL stuff, want to talk to you about this. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN or TV all day? Maybe you're watching Peacock, trying to figure out, men's rifle at 4:00 in the morning. If you are, also go to FanDuel and bet on it. But before we get into the next segment, if you're like me and you're watching sports all day long, every single day, if you're tired of having to turn on the volume because of ESPN and Fox, make sure you make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories about all the streaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. So going back into some of the NIL stuff. Now, like I said, I don't have all the numbers of the rankings for every team in the SEC. It's a very difficult thing to do, to be honest, because in the SEC, it is like you play so much stuff close to the vest. A lot of these programs are not going to reveal how much money they have in the collective. And they're definitely not going to be telling anyone what they're spending on some of these kids. See it every single day on social media, especially with new recruits and commitments, stuff like that. The numbers, I will tell you this. I talked to several people from On3 about this. Talked to JD Piquel about it. Talked to Duke the Scoop. Great dude. Does a phenomenal job there. I will tell you that I think probably 80% of the numbers that you see thrown out on social media about NIL are fabricated. I mean, let's not get out of our minds here and think about how massive the number. Like, people aren't going to be paying $5 million for a quarterback. Florida tried or said they were going to with Jaden Rashada. Thank God they didn't. That was insane. Now they're being sued for it. Nico got 8 at Tennessee, so that's a real number. But for the most part, a lot of these numbers are fabricated and embellished on social media and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I was looking at here, I told you where Lenor Sellers ranks. 328th in the country, 56th ranked quarterback, 20th ranked SEC quarterback. The way this is broken down in the NIL stuff for On3, they have a top 100 valuations, right? And I looked through this and I wanted to see how many of the players in the top 100 are from South Carolina. The answer is one. It is Josiah Thompson, freshman offensive tackle. He's the highest ranked one. He's 54th overall in the country. 54th, true freshman, right? That alone should tell you exactly where we're headed with this NIL stuff, right? Freshman, hasn't started, might not start this year. You've added a lot of depth there. Very talented, right? He's the highest ranked player by far from South Carolina, and the only player you have ranked in the top 100. Now, where do you stand amongst other teams in the SEC? Well, the SEC, as you know, does not play around with recruiting. And it is a who's who of these top programs with the top players in valuation. You got a ton from Colorado outside the SEC. You got a ton from Colorado, a ton from Ohio State, bunch from Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame. Those are your usual suspects. Oregon, stuff like that. Arizona's got several as well. It's how they were able to hold on to some of those elite players they had coming back from last year's team, even though they lost their coach. But here's where you are with the SEC. The SEC has 20 of the top 50 players overall on the valuation, right? And 36 in the top 100 from 13 different teams. 13. South Carolina has one. That's tied with Auburn and Oklahoma. They both have one as well. Teams ahead of them, right? A&M has 2. Mizzou has 2. Florida has 2. Teams with 3, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Kentucky. Kentucky had like 3 in like 90 through 100 or something like that. Teams with 4, LSU. Bama has 5. Texas has 6. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not what each player is necessarily making. This is what their valuation is that they could be making. The concern I have moving forward is I think it's great that you're doing something, especially for the quarterback position. Where do you rank elsewhere? Here's the other 3 guys that I was able to find through all of the positions, all of them. Okay. So Lenor Sellers at quarterback, Josiah Thompson at 54 as an offensive lineman. Edge off the edge, Dylan Stewart, true freshman, right? 331,000. Okay, 331,000. So about half what Josiah Thompson's getting. That ranks 205th overall in the country and the 22nd ranked edge rusher, right? And then the other one, because here's the thing. Well, let me get into this first. The other one is Rocket Sanders at running back. 223,000 is his valuation. That ranks 537th in the country and the 42nd ranked running back. Now, listen, this is a guy coming off injury, but he's a former All-SEC guy. And here's the other part too: is you don't get a discount in the portal, and you've seen this in other times. Like I saw it at LSU covering them for ESPN in Baton Rouge. There was multiple people like they there's different windows, right? So you have the first window that happens, I think it's like end of or started December or midway through that, and then like to January, right? Then you have another portal window that opens after spring practice and guys that want to transfer then. There's multiple guys that were like would not have been, if you look at all the portal rankings, would not have been ranked as high in the first portal window, but like here's what's left. And it's a kid from like Central Michigan, I believe, who ended up going to Miami because he asked for $800,000 as a D tackle. Like, you do not get a discount in the portal. So it makes sense to me that Rocket Sanders, even with the production coming off the injury, he's still going to get over 200K and he's ranked 500 something. Very odd. What stands out the most to me is out of 4 guys I saw, I didn't see anyone in the secondary, which is crazy to me. Those guys are getting paid. Didn't see Debo Williams. Like, couldn't find him on there. But you see the 2 freshmen, 2 highest ranked recruits you had from last year's recruiting class was ranked 17 in the country and on 3. Josiah Thompson, Dylan Stewart. Combined between them, you're talking about almost $1 million. It's $946,000 for those 2 players. That's just 2 players. So what that tells me is you got to really, really be invested into this if you are going to be a major player moving forward. And I think the building blocks are in place for South Carolina. And I think they're doing those things to get there. But it is definitely a situation where it's like everyone needs to be all hands on deck, right? Go follow these players on social media. That's one way they get these numbers up. I to be honest, and I don't have the numbers in front of me and they weren't accurate from what I saw on there versus on Twitter because they're from like, earlier in the year. But Lenor Sellers, like his social media numbers, it sounds so stupid and high schoolers, but it's like, I think he's 10,000 Twitter followers. I don't know how many he has on Instagram. Go follow these guys. The higher you have, follower count, as stupid as it sounds, that makes you more marketable. And that will be like, yet another thing that helps bring in more money to these kids, showing more valuation, then also showing like, hey, we may not be Georgia. We may not be pumping out, first round pick after first round pick and getting 5-star after 5-star, but we are going to compete in this world with them. I think that's big. So that's the main part I have from the NIL stuff. Again, some of these numbers I thought were interesting. The The fact that you have 40% of the top 50 players in the country come from the same conference, that should show you again how much of an arms race it is. And it is very, very difficult to keep up there with teams like Texas and Colorado. It's ridiculous 4-8 to be paying that much money out. But this is the new day and age of football. So this is where this is going to be headed. And that's where South Carolina needs to be, is rubbing elbows and keeping up with the Joneses with everyone else in the conference. You don't have to be with Texas. You don't have to be stupid with your money like Auburn paying $390 for Peyton Thorne. But if you want to go out and attract elite talent, especially at the high school level, you're going to have to go out and throw some money around like they have, and also get some help from like local stuff as well. So that is all I have for the NIL stuff. We'll dive more into it, I think, as the season goes on or as it gets closer and stuff like that. And I'll get some more concrete numbers from around the SEC. I'll tell you off the top of my head, I think what I was told 2 years ago from Ole Miss was 9,500. All the sources I have close to Birmingham for Bama and Auburn, working with their next round live and all that good stuff. I was told last year from multiple schools close to Auburn, especially like talking to recruits and some of the higher ranked, athletic programs and football teams in the state. Hey, like, which teams are throwing around the most money? Auburn. Now that's not a rival for you guys, like, or like for USC, it's not a rival for anybody really outside the state because of Alabama. So it's like when he said the numbers they were throwing around, because they were in a weird arms race with Ole Miss, they are the perfect example of what this NIL era is going to bring. And what that is desperation, hunger, and the want to win now. The want to win right now. I said this when it first started. The thing that was going to do most in the country, besides like put money in kids' pockets, some of those dormant former national brands, Tennessee. I don't know how old our audience is, but like if you were around in the 90s, early 2000s, the Philip Fulmer era, when it was NIL before it was legal, they were throwing money around. That's a program with a national footprint going on in Knoxville. Tons of kids from California, Hawaii, Oregon, all over the country. But what NIL was always going to do was wake up some of these, I don't want to say sleeping giants, but the teams that used to be great, that have been down for a while and are tired of being the butt of the joke and the laughing stock of their state, the laughing stock of their office. Miami, USC, I keep thinking is going to do it, but they keep screwing it up somehow. And then every time they get a commit, it ends up going to Georgia anyway. But Texas, all those kind of guys, those are the programs that are going to be initially rocketed up from this, because they are going to put a ton of money into it. Working and that's not necessarily, again, what South Carolina has to do, but you're going to have to pony up some money if you want to compete with some of those guys year in and year out. All right, that is our NIL stuff. We're going to close out the show with some more fun stuff as well. Some miscellaneous, guys. Look, it says miscellaneous Gamecock news, and I highlighted or capitalized the SC. Did you get it? I won't explain it. I'm an idiot. Okay, we'll stop. Anyway, before we do that, I want to talk to you about our good friends at Ibotta. I said this yesterday. Not only is it very fun to say, but Ibotta, phenomenal job for what they do. Listen, you're going to be going on different things all year, right? You're going to be going on vacations. You're going to be taking trips. You're going to want to go out to like celebrate things, whether it's an anniversary or whatever. If you're taking a dream vacation this summer, but dreading the cost, get to Ibotta today. With Ibotta, you get cash back on all your purchases. I don't mean points. I mean cash back. So you can spend more time making memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app, okay? Free app. In this economy, we love that. That lets you get cash back every time you shop. And also, it's not just like local places. It's over 2,400 brands at 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Other apps give you points. Like I said, that does not amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards right away. Love that. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. So check out Ibotta. Right now, they are offering our listeners $5 just for trying out the app. So use code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, all one word. As soon as you register, go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download it for free. Download the app for free and start earning cash back today using Locked on College. That's IBOTTA, and use Locked on College, all one word, for a discount right away. Also, want to talk about our friends over here at Factor as well. If you are like me and desperately trying to get in shape all the time, this is a perfect thing to do. Now, listen, warmer, sunnier days are calling, even though it's the summer is coming down. I think school started in some places, which is insane. But warmer, sunny days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for the rest of the year and in time for tailgate season when it's most important, right? Thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes? What? So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a healthy new routine. What are we even waiting for at this point, guys? Listen, there's 35 different meals with more than 60 different add-ons to choose from every single week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. We love that. Crush your wellness goals this upcoming August and football season with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert, everything in between. Treat yourselves to restaurant-quality meals, all of those things. I'm talking about filet mignon, talking about shrimp, talking about salmon without the L being pronounced, going back to my bartender days. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, no prepping, no cooking or cleaning up. We love that. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use the code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off the next month while your subscription is active. Make sure you guys go check them out today. All right, we'll be right back after this break, and we will close out the show for our last part of the day. All right, welcome back in, guys. I am Chris Marler. Like I said, I think I've introduced myself maybe too many times today, but welcome back in. Want to close out today with just some miscellaneous Gamecock stuff. Now, first and foremost, Gamecocks in the Olympics. Asia Wilson, balled out, shocker to no one. Just the absolute unicorn that she is. This is what she put up today. I took a picture of it on my phone, of course. So now I have to scroll through and figure out what it is. Team USA women played Japan and won by like 30 something, right? But listen to this day. Asia Wilson had 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists, 10 of 16 from the field. Love to see it. Love to see Gamecocks succeeding everywhere. Another place that I saw this as well, Ethan Petry, the Gamecock outfielder who decided to return and was a massive part of why Paul Mainieri is actually deciding to join South Carolina as the head coach after taking some time off after his LSU gig. Ethan Petry is ranked as high as 5th as the 5th overall college prospect in next year's MLB draft. He's having himself a summer up in the Cape. The most elite players in the country going to play in the Cape, and he has been incredible so far this summer. I think he won the home run derby at the All-Star break. So fantastic job by him. Dude, some of the numbers from this kid, it's just like, your freshman year, you get 376 with 23 home runs. You follow it up with 21 more as a sophomore. Now, the 25.1% strikeout rate, not great. That was a problem that plagued the offense a lot. I told you all a while back, the 3 infielders you had playing second, short, and third had a combined 32.3% strikeout rate, which is unreal. Cannot have that from 3 positions combined, especially where every third at bat, you're going to have a K from 33% of your lineup. But Ethan Petry himself, just a phenomenal talent and going to be a huge part of the Gamecocks' success, hopefully in year one of the Paul Mainieri era. We haven't talked that much about Paul Mainieri, and we'll get some people on from LSU that can share a little bit more about what he brings to the table. Obviously, it's kind of a down period for baseball talk, but like I've said a million times with South Carolina, man, you get to talk about sports year round. It's one of the reasons I'm very thankful for having this job, because you don't have to sit there and just talk about football because you are actually a well-rounded university. Imagine that. So that's all the baseball talk. The other thing is this. I want to close out with this. Talked to Josh Pate today. He put out his power ratings, I believe, on yesterday's show or on Sunday. This is Tuesday. So he had his top 30. Now, these are power ratings. He always does this. And I give him a hard time because it's like, these aren't rankings. It's power ratings. I don't know what that really means. Maybe we'll have Josh on at some point when he's not busy chasing tornadoes and can make time for his old buddy to come on here. And he can explain it. I will say this. I asked him specifically today. I was like, hey, listen, we're going to record later today. Where do you have South Carolina in that? Because I know they're not in the top 30. He said they came in at 43rd. Okay. I asked him why he didn't get too much into it. He said, we'll have to talk about it some other time. Sounded very vague and suspicious. But I think it's probably for a lot of the same reasons we've seen everyone else kind of be dismissive about the top end and the ceiling of what this Gamecock team can be in 2024. And so the schedule, and it's we're worried about what we saw a year ago, especially with the expectations being so much higher a year ago and then falling short from that. But hopefully we'll talk to Josh about that at some point. I thought it was interesting either way. And honestly, like 43rd is too low, but it feels like it's more so to do with the fact of how many teams are in this conference. And I feel like it's less around about the teams that people are expecting and way too high on, not just in the SEC, but around the country. It's a lot more about that than it is about South Carolina. That's all I have to say about that. All right, last but not least, this was a stat that I saw from College Football Report. They do a great job. They come up with a lot of graphics. I love them to death. Pissed off a lot of Georgia fans this past weekend because of their GSR ratings graphic, saying they had 41% graduation rate. But they came out with this yesterday on Instagram. If you're not following them, it's SBE Football and it's CFB Report. Go follow them. Go follow me. It's Vern Funquist CFB on Twitter and as well on Instagram. But it's combined NFL earnings by school. And this was something that I was expecting South Carolina to be not high up, but I feel like it's a stat that could be really important tied back into even the stuff of the NIL things, right? Like, yeah, it's great to have this many draft picks. How long are those draft picks sticking around? How many are we getting broke off like, a contract? How many are we getting paid, right? South Carolina ranks 29th in the country at $88 million in combined earnings by school for this upcoming year, right? 10th in the SEC. That, I think, is huge. You're right behind Texas. Texas is at 101. That's pathetic. With the talent that Texas brings in every year, the lack of development there, gross. 10th in the SEC. You're ahead of other teams like Tennessee. You're ahead of Arkansas. You're ahead of, I'm trying to roll through here, Mizzou, Kansas State, other teams like that. I'm trying to think of who else in the SEC as I'm skipping through this. Eastern Michigan somehow at 37 million. There's somebody I'm forgetting there of why they would be up that high. But at 88 million, 29th, and top 10 in the SEC, I think that's big. Because here's the thing. The disparity between here, this is not something it's like, yeah, you want to be up higher for sure. Bama's at $539 million, almost $200 million more than any other school this upcoming year. That's with, and the LSU is at 355. Georgia is, let me do 6th. Clemson is 5th, so that sucks. But the top 10 is kind of a who's who of teams you'd expect. Ohio State, Oklahoma, Clemson, Georgia, USC, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oregon. You are behind A&M. You're behind Mississippi State because they got a couple guys that just got absolutely paid. But I think this is yet another thing that is when you talk about things about, yeah, it's great to get kids to the league. It's great to get kids drafted. The ability to keep them there and develop players that are having lasting careers in the NFL, love to see it. And you are getting that at South Carolina. It's yet another reason to be positive about this program moving forward. And that's all I have to say about that. Guys, I appreciate you guys joining us for the show today. Hope all of you have a fantastic Tuesday. I recorded this, just full disclosure, okay? I really trying to ramp this up as we get to the season. I'm recording this at 2:51 in the morning on Tuesday. My dog Pepper, who just woke up again, has been in a barking fit for most of the night. I was like, you know what? Why don't we stay up, be productive, get this done. You will have it Tuesday morning as I'm recording it right now, late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. I appreciate you guys a lot. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Reach out to me on social media. Reach out to us on Locked On SC on Twitter. Reach out to me personally, Vern Funquist CFB on Twitter or Instagram. any kind of feedback. Tell me what topics you guys want to talk about, anything like that, especially heading into fall camp because it starts. They report on Thursday. Practice starts Friday. I am fired up for that. We have actual football stuff to talk about every single day. So thank you for listening to Locked On Gamecocks today. It's and also making it your first listen every day. For your second listen, y'all, enjoy the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Pencils down. Y'all have a fantastic Tuesday. Get after it.